While pitching is an art that requires the combination of several variables, success primarily depends on a pitcher's motion.
Staying back with my body from the start to stay kind of over the rubber and allow everything to catch up and let your leg kick and arm swing be in sync, and so you're collected and ready to go before everything starts moving forward.
Pitchers rely on velocity for effectiveness, and it is one specific part of the motion that gets them that desired velocity.
It should be your hips driving a home plate. That's where your velocity comes from, and your arm swing is where your velocity comes from as well.
In addition to velocity, pitchers need to focus on having a consistent release point, and that can be detected by where they hold the ball at the top of their motion.
I like to have my arm up by my ear when I'm hitting the ground with my stride, and so that's really the key as far as timing goes. And I like to do that because it allows me to stay on top of all my pitches and get them from the same release point.
So let's break down the motion of Brandon Magalonis. He starts by keeping himself compact through the windup, but his leg kick is very high. Why is a leg kick important for a pitcher?
The important part, I think, for a leg kick is just your stride and being comfortable with the distance of it, and also the placement of your foot, keeping that consistent.
So according to Mason, it's consistency in stride and foot placement, which is in sync with the rest of the motion. As a result of a relatively high leg kick, Magalonis gets a very long stride, and because of that, he has a big hip drive, which, as he stated, contributes to velocity. The ball is above his ear as he is nearing the completion of his stride, which, as Mason said, is the best timing one can have in relation to their release point. Most pitchers prefer their motion from the windup, yet there is a key to keeping motion consistent from the stretch.
I try to stay tall and be quick to home.
Motions may differ, but the goal remains the same: throwing strikes. A pitcher's motion is always consistent, but what always changes is the grip on the ball. Most pitchers throw a variety of 3 pitches with distinct grips.
Throw a fastball, a four-seamer that usually cuts a little bit. I throw a curveball, 12-6, which means it breaks from top of the zone to the bottom. And I also throw a changeup.
But it can't be just the grip that creates the pitch. Doesn't a part of the motion have to change?
Fastball and changeup's the same forearm motion no matter what. With the curveball, I try and keep the same forearm motion as long as I can, and then at the last second, I turn my fingers over, and that's where I get my break usually.
Pitchers always change arm angles for different pitches, but the grip is paramount to the execution of that pitch.
If I don't have a good, solid 2-seam grip on my fastball is not going to move as much. So, I mean, the grip on my fastball is as important, if not more important, than my arm slot.
The fastball is a simple pitch, but the grip position varies on the ball.
Most guys throw 4-seam fastball like this or like this, whichever your personal preference is on your fingers.
The changeup is just like a fastball, but the difference lies mainly in the grip.
Changeup grip, I hold as if it's a 2-seam fastball, and I get it deep in my hand. To take speed off the pitch, you want to get as much friction as possible, so that's why you use all finger contact with the changeup. I like to get my thumb on this bottom seam here, which helps pronate the ball to get it to break down into a right-handed hitter.
The breaking ball is the most intricate because it is a combination of grip position and wrist rotation.
I mainly throw it with my middle finger and my thumb right on the laces like this. I use my pointer finger to stabilize the ball. And what happens is when I throw, I put all the pressure on this middle finger. I squeeze very tightly. Notice that the ball is back in my hand to try and slow the ball down. And when I throw, I rotate my wrist, my shoulder, and throw it right off of that middle finger.
With their intrinsic knowledge of their pitches, NU's pitchers certainly have a grip on things when they toe the rubber. For NNN Sports, I'm Greg Mraz. Most pitchers use similar motions, and most pitches have similar grips. But what is unique to each and every pitcher is their arm slot, and every pitcher develops theirs differently.
I had a pitching coach back home who really taught to get your arm up next to your ear and by your head so that it can come down next to your ear very fast and have control of everything from the same spot.
Arm slot isn't something that changes from pitch to pitch. It stays consistent on every single pitch.
I practice repeatable mechanics. That's the only way you can consistently throw strikes. and be effective, and you're going to throw slower if you don't have optimal mechanics. So I don't think my arm slot changes necessarily.
One's arm slot determines their velocity, spin, and release point. But much of what determines their arm angle is their body makeup.
It varies depending on, the person's anatomy. So, Randy Johnson, for example, I think his natural motion, the ball came out hardest from a sidearm angle, but, a guy like Mike Messina comes out hardest from an overhand angle.
If someone decides to change their arm slot, it takes a lot of practice in order to change that muscle memory.
Everything in baseball is about reps. You got to practice. You got to have focused practice where you're trying to do the same thing every time.
Most pitchers are what we call overhand or three-quarters, but Jack Quigley is the outlier. He throws from a sidearm angle.
Definitely does something different to the ball because he releases it so far on the side that, he gets side spin, and that allows him to get extra sink and extra run on his ball.
No matter the arm slot, if it's consistent every time, pitches will be delivered with maximum execution. For NNN Sports, I'm Greg Moraz.